And now it's Deborah Cobelt Live and the Little Italy podcast.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on Deborah Cobalt Live and our Little Italy podcast. And joining me, somebody quite special, we have Ilaria Borrelli. We met at the Italian Cultural Institute in Los Angeles at the screening of your magnificent film, The Goat. We're going to get into that in a moment. But you are an award-winning writer, director, actress, and novelist. You're also behind the film The Girl from the Brothel. And that was actually screened twice over at the United Nations. An incredible film. We'll talk about that. And two of my favorites, Our Italian Husband, which also starred Brooke Shields, and Wine and Kisses with Bernadette Peters. But what's interesting about you, which is why I really wanted to have you on the show, is there's a huge component to your work as a writer and director in terms of activism, and in particular, young girls and young women. So there's a lot for us to talk about because you've done an awful lot of work from where you started in Naples, Italy, right? So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for having me and to promote my work. It's always an honor to meet you, really. Yes, lately, especially after I became a mom, I decided to give voice to little girls in the world because I was lucky enough to travel a lot when I was younger. And I've always noticed that in every community, every society, the first part that always have to sacrifice are little girls. In war, in poverty, girls are the first that cannot go to school, cannot go to hospital. So I decided to, to use my work to give them voice.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about how you grew up, where you grew up, and sort of what happened with you as a young child that may have really motivated you to focus your work on young girls. So you grew up where?
So I grew up in Italy, in Naples. My parents were kind of 60s, 80s people. So they gave me this vision of life, let's say, to fight against injustice, to live for a cause. And I thank them so much. But I also noticed always in my town, in my school, when I was growing up, that little girls were not treated the same than little boys. So when I grew up, I decided really to give voice to little girls because I think they are much more brave than what we are used to see in films, and they also need more attention. They need us to listen more. They can do incredible heroic things. Actually, I think that they are the real heroes today, because when a girl can escape children prostitution or forced marriage, she has to do such a huge effort that is almost impossible to believe that she can achieve it. So what I always say, I always say lately that the real heroes in films nowadays, instead of Superman or 007, should be little girls. This is my concern.
Absolutely, there should be, and I believe that there will be, especially with you as a filmmaker. I do believe that. You're going to make that happen. But so soon after growing up, you ended up going to the United States and studied right over at NYU, and that's really where your filmmaking career began. You were also an actress as well.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, and then what motivated you into doing films with an impact.
Yeah. I started at the Conservatory of Acting in Rome, and I started acting in theater, in film, in TV series, a lot of TV series as protagonist in France. And it was right in Paris when I was shooting a TV series as an actress that, I felt that the dialogue were very poor, and I was changing the dialogues. So I remember this French director told me, Ilaria, stop changing my story. This time you shoot my film. Next time you shoot your film. So he already gave me this idea That
I love it.
I was, and so I had this thought in my mind when I went to study at the actor studio in New York as an actress, and I had some friends at the New York University that were studying filmmaking, were starting to become director, and they were using me as an actress in their shorts. And I remember that going with them in the mm, taking camera at the New York University and all the lights and going outside and shoot. I thought, oh my God, this is much more fun than just being an actress. And so I didn't I didn't come back to Europe, and I stayed in New York, and I studied at the New York University as a filmmaker. And
Mm.
I started to shoot shorts, and my first feature film with Brooke Shields and Chevy Chase, I shot it in New York.
Okay. And how did you end up with your first film with Chevy Chase and Brooke Shields? And that's called Our Italian Husband. I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
hard to pull off. Usually people will go and ask their friends and family to be in a movie. It's their first movie. But how did that happen?
I was stubborn because
Ah,
I know that the greatest Eddie Kaufman, the biggest casting director in US in the world perhaps, had her office very close to my place. So I was there every morning at 8 a.m. with my script on my lap in the
ah.
waiting room. And I think it was the third day that I was there that she asked me, "Who are you?" And I told her, I'm an Italian director, and I have this script. I really would love you to help me to find actors. And she looked at me and she says, "Okay, I love Italy. Come inside." And
Wow.
so I own her so much because she's really the biggest casting director. And so she was calling right away for me because, of course, she loved the script. Otherwise, she wouldn't help me. But she really loved the comedy. And, even though we had this small budget, I had an Italian producer, an American producer, but it was a very small budget. I was very lucky to have these huge stars, and so it was a pretty incredible first film. I also was very well received in Italy when I came back with the film because it was the first time an Italian woman shot a film outside Italy in America. It was there was a lot of attention on me, and this also allowed me to shoot the second film in Italy with Murray Abram and Bernadette Peters.
Wow, that's pretty exciting. That's interesting though, because that was at a time when you could just show up at somebody's office and sit there and wait for them, right? And we really can't do that anymore. Everything is submitted online. You
You're
hardly
right.
get to meet anybody. There's not that interpersonal thing going on. Do you agree?
Oh my God, this is such a good. I didn't think about this. True. Yes, it's very sad we don't meet anymore in person. But I always want to be positive, and I know that all this um, internet connection and social media
Yeah.
is also very useful in so many ways because
Hmm.
it can be witnessing difficult situation that we didn't know nothing about. It can make people very far away to stay connected. So I want to be positive. I think always the intention is the most important. How do you use the tool is the intention that is important.
What I love is women helping women. And this is a woman who helped you really get your career started. We need that, don't we?
Absolutely. Abby is always supporting women work, and is something that I really learned in US. This thing
Hmm.
that women help women because in Italy I didn't I didn't experience so much. I love it when I work in Los Angeles or in California. I have women, telling me, "Oh, what a beautiful dress! A beautiful what a good perfume you wear." I never experienced this in Italy. There is a more. I think women in America made the effort to stick together, of course, with the movement also Me Too, and they are giving the example to all the women in the world, actually. And so I'm very thankful to the effort that is done by women in America.
Hmm. You know, how has working and growing up in Italy, how has it affected your life as an Italian here?
Uh, I think Napolitan are very, very creative, are very, very,
Mm,
since when there are difficulties, I think you have to be creative to resolve problems every day.
yeah.
I'm for sure a problem solver. I can do it with very little money, a film. I can always find a way to make what I want to do, even if there is not so many, yes, so many money or so many help. I think in the south of Italy there is this stubbornness to to go until to make the things happen, and perhaps there is this skill of communication. I know that I can talk to very different kind of people, and I am always well received. So for sure, Italy gives you a lot of yes, of talent, of tools to to go uh, to travel well in life.
Hmm. Yeah. Let's talk about your film that was screened twice at the United Nations and the
Yeah.
impact that it had on the in the international community. That's called The Girl from the Brothel. Tell us what that film is about and tell us the impact that it had internationally.
Yes, this is the story of a woman that discovered her husband in a brothel in Cambodia with a little girl. And when I discovered, I didn't even know that children prostitution existed. But when I discovered that there
Wow.
were children prostitution, I was crying, I think, for days. I just had my two kids, and this was 2009, 2010, and I was so shocked that nobody was talking about this huge
Mm.
humanitarian problem. Not the cinema world, but not even
Anyone.
the news. There are millions. Nowadays, we finally talk more about this problem, and there are so many organizations that are doing a huge efforts. But I remember I end up doing my research on this interview of a journalist, an Italian journalist with a hidden camera to a sexual tourist in Thailand. And this guy was inviting him for the night to this little party with little girls. This, and he said to him to encourage him to come. And my wife will cook great food for us. And I was so shocked how a wife can be can be witnessing orgies with little girls. So I
Ugh.
start to imagine what I would do if I would discover my husband having uh, going to brothel with a little girl. So this was the starting of the story, and then of course this woman in the film decide, of course, to save the little girl and then other little girls, and to of course stop the relationship with the husband. But yes, now we talk more about this huge humanitarian problem. There are, they say, 50 million minors in prostitution nowadays.
Wow.
The United Nations, of course, they're doing a lot. But for instance, with the screening at the European Parliament of this film, it was 2017 or 2018, they had to vote for this law that would allow to persecute the sexual tourist even outside his own country. And they told me that the screening of my film helped to make this law pass. So now the sexual tourist can be persecuted by his own country, even when he does the thing outside his country. So in this moment, I felt very, very useful. And also another time, since this thing was reported to Italian politicians, there was a woman politician in Italy that asked to screen my film at the Italian parliament because she also was trying to make pass another law for protecting children, that, and this politician Zampa succeeded after the screening of the film. So This is another important law that passed in Italy in 2019. Is to give documents, papers, passport to every child, every minor arriving in Italy. And this is extremely important because when children arrive with no documents, right away are trafficked. It's much more difficult to track them. So this is a very important law, the law Zampa in Italy. This very brave woman politician made it happen, and I know that other European country in Europe, yes, are copying this law, because it's very, very important to give documents to minors as soon as they enter the territory.
Where is this happening most throughout our world? Do you know that? It's everywhere.
It's not possible. It's everywhere. Even in US, we don't imagine, but there is a huge children trafficking and prostitution, and so many. There is no, and also I'm a little upset that we think that in poor countries, this thing happen. In our more rich country. Actually, I live in Paris, and I saw pictures of boys entering cars at the Gare du Nord, very, very central Paris, because the police last year was working on this, and I saw some police picture of very, very small children entering cars, prostituting in central Paris. So I think we are all connected. This is the truth. I think that there is no more. We are all. What I also wanted to say with this latest film, The Goat, is that rich country, poor countries, we are all connected. Is not anymore. We cannot say anymore we are different. We don't have the same tradition. We don't have the same religion. We are always responsible, and we should try to resolve the problem together.
The Goat was very, very moving, like all of your work. It's all very moving. It's very touching. You feel like you're there living this horror with this young girl. Now, it also stars Mira Sorvino, John Savage, and a young TikTok star, right, from Egypt. Is that correct?
Yes, she became
pretty cool.
Yeah, Jessica Hosam.
Yeah, tell our audience what that's about, because that was a very telling film for me. I thought about it. I went home. I told everyone I knew about it. And then since then, of course, I then went and watched your other films, particularly The Girl from the Brothel. And I just realized the depth that you go into to creating these characters, writing these characters, almost like it's a documentary. It's so lifelike and so true to what's happening in the world. I honestly started to feel like I was watching a documentary. Tell me the process of going about making a film like that.
Well, I receive news from humanitarian organizations all the time, because they would love me to do more films about what's happening, especially, unfortunately, little girls are always more protagonists of this horror. And then one day I received this, it was not so terrible news, but it was very, very interesting for me, about this little girl, I don't remember which African country, that could pay her studies selling goat cheese from her goat, from the milk of her goat in the village. And she could even arrive in US and make her college and start to be an engineer. So this really made me dream so much. Wow, what's incredible strength there are in girls. And of course I wanted to talk about the injustice of the forced marriage, which is I call it slavism, because when you marry a little girl when she's 12 and you take it off from school and from hospital, she's like a slave in the house. Perhaps there are other wives, and she starts to make children. And I wanted to also talk about the problem of the fistula. Obstetric fistula is another huge humanitarian problem, and people don't talk about enough about this, because there are millions of girls that die every year of this uh, practically is the uterus of the girl is too small, so during the delivery it just breaks, and the poor girl die of she can start to lose a lot of liquid, lot of water, and she dies because she cannot more often reach an hospital. And I had this obsession in my mind. I wanted to talk about forced marriage, about the fistula, and also this idea that we are all connected. And because I think that the temptation of the money in the poor countries is the major cause of a lot of problems, is the major reason of a lot of local problems. So in the story I created this little girl that is the daughter of the owner of the only spring in this Bedouin community in the middle of the desert. And there is this American company arriving, and they want to buy the spring because the water is supposed to be full of oligo elements and very precious. They want to do fancy plastic bottle and the mineral water. And the father of the little girl refused to sell the spring. And so the mean guy of the village forced to marry the little girl to have in the spring, to become the owner of the spring and to be able to sell it to the American company. So and of course, the little girl, who is now pregnant, she's 12 and pregnant, decided to escape during the night with her only friend, the goat, to reach her father in the capital to try to save the spring. Because the father left to go call for the police because he was not happy for this marriage. At the end, the woman working in this American company helped the girl to bring back the spring to the village, even though they killed the father, but there is an happy ending. And Mira Sorvino played this very, very brave engineer, helping the little girl to bring back the spring to the village. I really am very honored that Mira accepted to play in the film, because she also represents so much for women rights. She was one of the first that started the Me Too movement with Ashley Judd. So I'm very honored that she agreed to do this low budget, but I think that we made a very, very beautiful film altogether.
Yeah. What was it like filming? Where did you film and what was it like? Because I believe, it was not so easy at times, right? Here you are, a female writer and director in charge of this production. And where were you doing this? And did you have a lot of roadblocks, if you will?
So I mainly, for 2 years, I was looking for a beautiful desert to shoot, because the film is 1 hour and a half in the desert, and I really wanted to find something very beautiful, because it can be very boring, the desert.
Right.
For 1 hour and a half. So it was very difficult. I went to Oman, I went to Ethiopia, I went to Zambia. But then some friends brought me to this little oasis in Egypt at the border with Libya.
Wow.
There are very, very few people living there. And the interesting thing is that wherever I turned, there was a different desert panorama. And so I say to myself, this is perfect. So I can shoot a different kind of desert, and the public is
right.
not going to be bored.
Right.
And for me, I want to say this. For me, the beauty is very important in films, especially because I talk about these very cruel things. I like to remember to people how lucky we are to live in this planet, in this beautiful gift that we have for free. And this contrast between this purity of the nature that has given us like a miracle for free is always in contrast in my film with the horror that we do as human beings. And I think that this contrast can make people think about what we are doing, and yes, and perhaps can redeem us a little bit to remember how beautiful is the planet we are living in. Anyway, this is just a parenthesis. I decided to
Yeah.
shoot there also because I was lucky enough to find some Egyptian very modern group of people that helped me a lot to make it happen. There is this Munir Niamatalla. I want to remember him. Is a little bit the creator of this oasis, Siwa Oasis. And he's a guy that is 40, 50 years that is saving oasis around the desert in Egypt, a big ecologist. And together with other people I prefer not to mention because there are famous people, Egyptian people, I don't want to bother them. But they were very, very interested in helping this vision also of Egypt. And because Egypt is a country that is becoming modern very, very quickly, is a very interesting and is also an example for all the countries around. So I thought it was a great occasion to shoot in the Arab world, and such a delicate, controversial theme subject, I think was a great. And I was a little bit. They tried a little bit to to when I was left alone. Really, I had little problems, but honestly, it went very, very well.
Yeah. How long did it take you to film?
We shot for 5 weeks. We prepared for weeks and we shot 5 weeks.
That's incredible.
We were really,
and I mean, I want people to go see this film because what you did in 5 weeks is amazing. It is a rich, rich story, so beautifully told. I mean, it's the kind of story that you would think would take a year to film, and you did it in 5 weeks. It's really an incredible film. Where can people find it, by the way?
For the moment, we are selling the film, so very soon it will be in theater too. We also have American distributors that are interested. So for the moment, of course, we have to wait. But you can go watch my other films. The Girl from the Brothel is on Amazon Prime, and you also find Our Italian Husband and Wedding Kisses on platforms. They change, so it's better I don't say which one because they change sometimes. But The Girl from the Brothel is on Amazon Prime, yes.
Yeah. So you have 2 daughters and they're teenagers. How has that changed your life? The way you look at the world through their eyes, being young girls.
I have a girl and a boy. A girl.
Oh, you have a girl and a boy.
I don't.
Why did I think I thought you had 2 girls? Sorry about that. So you have a daughter and a son. How old are they? And still the same because boys are being trafficked just like girls. How has this impacted you in the way that you look at the world?
Of course, when I became a mother, yes, my girl just turned 16, and my boy is going to be 18 in October, and they're incredible, wonderful children. I love them so much, and they're very aware of what's happening in the world because they came with me shooting, and in this, and they were for months in Cambodia, Nepal, Egypt, so they went to school there. So it's interesting how they appreciate what they have here in Paris because they understand how privileged we are and how small percentage of the world we are with this privilege, and to have a roof and food and good school is. So they're very thankful kids. I love them so much. Of course, when you have children, the whole vision of the world change, because you
Yeah.
see this little creature, how how fragile they are, and how they cannot defend themselves at all. So when I was traveling in poor countries, I was shocked to see people children in the street, of course, in the dump, um, they didn't ask to come in the world, and they are thrown into the horror like this. So it gives some focus on what's important to do, I think, to have children, not only
Mm.
for the children, but for the world, because we have to leave to our children this world. So perhaps if we can do something, is the moment to do it, because life is short. We don't have so much time. So it gave me also pressure to make more of this kind of film, and to uh, yes, to try to change things.
Yeah. Which leads me to some work that you're working on now, right? Because I
Yes,
know that the conflict in Israel and Gaza has had a tremendous impact on you as an artist. Are you able to tell
yes,
us what you're working on?
yes. It's a kind of Romeo and Juliet love story of
Ah,
between a kind an Israeli boy and a Palestinian girl. And yes, at the end, they die because, of course, they are in the war. And what I wanted to say is that they didn't ask to to born there, and they don't know nothing about politics and what's going on, and unfortunately they die. So children have no. We should protect children because they didn't ask to born there, to be Israeli or Palestinian, and they cannot
yeah.
defend themselves. And so it's always good to remember that we should do more to protect children.
Hmm. Ilaria, what do you think about most at night? What keeps you up at night?
Ah, oh, that's such a deep question. Is the future, of course, of my children.
Mm.
Um, I hope they are, especially they are happy people. Happiness of my children is very important to me, and the planet is in such a
Yeah.
big problems everywhere. So I try to escape as soon as I can to the nature. I love the ocean. I love the
Yeah.
water, and to reconnect me with this beautiful gift that we have. I try to stay positive, especially for my children, of course, for younger
Yeah.
generation. We have to be positive because um, it's completely useless to be negative. Positivity is giving people the reason to continue to fight, and um, I'm very lucky. I wish I'll do this life forever because I'm exactly where I want to be, making this kind of film. And my children are happy, so I don't have so many reasons to be
Yeah. That's a good
awake.
thing. And you're clearly very inspired with what's going on in the world. You see it and you think you find a way to write about it and get a film made. I mean, that's just incredible how, your art is really making an impact. You've won many, many awards at various film festivals over the
Thank
years.
you.
Um, so it's really pretty amazing. And I know that that's your latest film that you're working on about the conflict. Anything else you'd love to tell us about you? I know that you love nature and that I think you walk through life seeing how you can make your impact for your art. Anything else you'd like to tell us about your work, about you that you want people to know?
Well, they can people can contact me through Instagram, Flying Ilaria. I'm interested in new story about especially children. If someone wants to help also the making of the film, it's also very very welcome. So, what else I want to say? Um, I want to say, continue to watch films, please, because I think cinema has a very powerful um, energy to connect us together.
Yeah.
Um, because emotions are the same for every human being in the world. To lose a child is the same tragedy for for an Israeli mom, for a Palestinian mom, for an Egyptian mom. And cinema films remember us that we are really similar. We have the same pain, the same joy. Is a moment of we should stick together and not stay separated. We should minimize the difference and maximize the what is similar between us. And I think films with this language of emotion are very, very powerful tools that can really change the world. This I believe in this. So
Yeah.
I wish that the money for film will go more to this kind of film that
Yeah, of
reunite,
course.
open the eyes. To for me is always, of course, I'm not even a very I mean, I think I'm kind of a shy person, so I'm not so good in looking for the money every time for films. It's very difficult for me. So I wish that producer and people putting money in film would be more interested in this kind of film because we need to open the eyes on the
Of
world
the
of
world.
what
Yeah.
really happening. I know there are so much public that want to see this film, this kind of film. I was very well surprised by the great commentaries and reviews on Amazon Prime of this film, The Girl from the Brothel. Um, so yes, perhaps I want to talk to producer. I want to use your platform to talk to producer. Don't believe that these stories are not commercial or are interesting. They're not interesting for the public because they are. I see people really exiting my screening a little bit changed. I see the difference from when they enter and when they exit my screenings.
Mm.
We can help to change the world also with films.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, look at the impact it had on me, right? I met you that evening. We stayed in touch. We met personally after that, and we talked about doing an interview because I also believe these are the films that are the most impactful. And eventually, yes, people will make money with them too. So it's a great place to put your money because you're doing something good, right? In the world of film. Gosh, Ilaria, I'm so grateful that you joined us today. I really, really am. And I know where you calling us from? Where are you zooming in from?
I'm based in Paris. I come
Yeah,
often to LA for work, but I'm based in Paris with my kids.
yeah. So
Thank you
next
so
time
much.
you're here, yeah, next time you're here, we'll get together again over at the beach, which is where we met, which was such a lovely
Yes,
day. I look
yes,
forward to it, or maybe even over at the Italian Cultural Institute. I want to give a shout out to them and also to our friend Lorenza because she actually said, "Oh gosh, this would be a great interview, right?" DJ Lowe, she's wonderful, and I want to give a shout out to her as well because she suggested that we do this interview. So I'm so glad that she did.
yes. I love
Anyway,
it. She's a great composer, and yes,
she's a
women
beautiful
have.
composer.
We love that. We love
Yep.
helping each other. Thank you
Women
to promote.
helping women. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I believe in it. And the next film as well. We're going to be all over it. So, gosh, thank you so much for joining us. And thanks, everybody, for tuning into our Little Italy podcasts and Deborah Cobalt Live. And you can find us everywhere you get your podcasts, audio and video. We're on YouTube, on Facebook. We promote it on Instagram. And then on as an audio podcast, we're out there on iHeartRadio, on Apple, and just about anywhere that you get your podcast. Just put in the name of our show and, of course, Ilaria Borrelli, and you'll find our interviews. So I appreciate it. Please tell your friends as well. And I
Of
look forward to next time. Bye bye. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you so much. Ciao.